everyone, it's John from What Up. Welcome back to another video. Now, in this video, I'm going to do something just a little bit different. Normally, you hear my own thoughts, my own feelings, and my own take on all of our leaks, all of our news, and all my own speculation. Today, I'm going to talk about someone else's. For those of you who don't know who Narg is, Narg was a pillar of the Wheel of Time community for a very long time. He at one point ran a website called the Daily Trolloc, then he moved to Twitter, and then he moved to Instagram and to a subreddit. Eventually, he deleted his Twitter account, and posted less and less on Instagram and on the subreddit, and just recently quit social media and posting altogether. But before he did let us take a sneak peek into what he thinks is going to be the first 8 episodes of the Wheel of Time. Now, I will stress, and I'm going to stress this greatly, that this is Narg's own thoughts and opinions. This is how he thinks it will go. So this is not based on any facts from Amazon. It's not based on anything else. It's based on his own conjecture. And as we go through it, he'll give us how he thinks each episode will start, how he thinks each episode will end, and what he thinks will happen during each episode, or what he thinks should happen. And I'll interject with my own thoughts and ideas. Now, if you folks want to follow along and read with me, the link to the article is in the description box down below. Go ahead and click that, and we can go through it together. Now, another thing I will stress that these are his thoughts and ideas, and my own personal thoughts and ideas may not always align with Narg's. So if that happens, I'll certainly let you guys know. All right, before we get started, spoiler warning. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Narg's breakdown of what he thinks will happen during the first 8 episodes of Amazon Prime's Wheel of Time series that was most recently filming in the Czech Republic. Because of this, we're probably going to talk about events during the Eye of the World and The Great Hunt. So if you haven't read at least the first 2 books of the Wheel of Time, be forewarned, I may spoil anything and everything from those books for you. All right, let's get into the video. All right, so we're going to get through the first episode here in just a second, but before we do, I want to mention that I'm going to be reading the article, so you'll see me reading a bit, and then I'll talk to you guys here and there and interject with my own thoughts and feelings. And we're also going to show you some of the pictures that he linked in this article. Some are pretty low res because they were leaks from the set, and other ones are fairly high res, and they're really nice to look at. Either way, when we get to those bigger pictures, I'm going to move myself out of the way so you guys can take a look at them, and then we'll talk a bit about them more. So he starts off with a photo of the Wine Spring Inn. Now, I'm going to move myself here so you guys can see it. Now, we all know that this one was leaked quite some time ago, and no one really knew what it was, but it wasn't until they gave us our official set photo of the Emond's Field that we kind of had a really good idea that this was the Wine Spring Inn. Now, let's bring myself back here. So, the start point, Narg said, is he has no idea other than it's probably not the prologue because that's too tainted. Now, I completely agree with Narg on this one that it's probably not going to be the prologue of the books. We'll probably save that for flashbacks at a later date, mainly because Winter Dragon is still fresh in everyone's minds as being the horrible hot mess that it was. But here are 2 possibilities, and one is unlikely in Narg's opinion. So the first one he talks about is this. Now, this was a script reveal we got a very long time ago, and it starts with exterior the Westwood day. We're higher in the mountains. Spring's touch hasn't reached here yet. Their trees are bare. Patches of snow dot the ground. An old cart filled with small wood barrels and bales of wool makes its way through the wood, pulled by a shaggy brown mare. We all know who that is. That's Bella, right? 2 men walk on either side of her, father and son. This is Tam Althor, 50s, an aging shepherd with the watchful eye of a warrior. Thick chest and broad face, there's a masculine solidness to him, as though a flood could wash around him without uprooting his feet. Now this is pretty much straight from the book. Like this, I'm envisioning the scene from the book on the Quarry Road when they're walking there, and this is pretty close to that. So what does Narg say? Narg doubts we'll start with the Quarry Road scene. Why not, Narg? Firstly, because it reads something like something comes before it. We're higher in the mountains, and because Narg doubts Rafe would give away the first scene, but it does bring back memories of the good old days before Wheel of Time on Prime took over social media for the show. Now, what he's referring to there is this is back when Rafe was posting things about the show, before the actual Wheel of Time on Prime account took over, and Amazon was doing all of the social media posting for the show after that. I'm pretty sure that's what Narg's talking about, and I get the feeling that Narg doesn't like the new account. All right, so Narg's possible start points. 1, Moraine and Lan riding into Emond's Field where they encounter Nynaeve and Egwene and we get our first braid tug. I really, really like that one. 2, we start with a snippet of Raven's prologue from Egwene's point of view and then transition into the present. That one I don't like so much because we would have to start further in the past and then come forward, and I don't like that. Narg knows a lot of people mention the Guitarra Mosoro foretelling as a good intro, but Narg feels like they might start out with the focus on the female leads, and while all the people in that scene are female, the foretelling puts the focus squarely on a male. That is pretty much 100% correct, I'm sure, because this has been billed as Moiraine, Rosamund Pike's character, being the lead character, at least in all the releases that Amazon has put out. So they're trying to focus, I believe, on the female leads, at least initially, in the show. That's my thought on that. So I agree with Narg there. What are my thoughts? Where do we think we're going to start? Well, honestly, I had something completely different. I think we're going to start with the scene with Padan Fain coming into Emond's Field. His wagon rolling down the road, coming into the green, stopping, setting up, things like that. Now, we do know for sure that Ray said these were the first shots of the show. He said that a number of times, actually. That does not mean it's the first things we'll see. It's just the first things that they actually shot on set. So I'm hoping it's one of the first things we'll see, sort of like Gandalf riding into the Shire in the Lord of the Rings movie. If they parallel that, it'll go really well. And instead of, awesome, happy, super good Gandalf, we have mean, grumpy old Padan Fain. So that would be kind of neat. So what does Narg think the first episode includes? Narg thinks empty road, Moiraine and Lan meeting Nynaeve and Egwene, braid tongue when Moiraine calls Nynaeve girl. I really need to see that. Rand and Tam coming into town, arriving at the inn, meeting Mat, receiving coins from Moiraine. Fain arrives, winter night both at the farm and in town, family time with Mat, Perrin, and Egwene. Tam's fever dream, Rand seeking help from Moiraine after Nynaeve says she can't do anything for Tam, the healing of Tam. Now, I agree with all of that. I think all of that's going to be there. Now, there's a couple of things I think Narg missed. The first thing is we're going to see Beltane. Rafe has pretty much said that. Now, does that mean that the attacks will happen during Beltane? Will Winter Night become Beltane instead? I'm not entirely sure. No one really is, but we do know that we will see Beltane, so that's going to be included. And the other thing that it doesn't talk about here is the Gleeman. Now, we all know that Tom Marilyn is a very big part of the books, but we also all know that the actor that's playing Tom did not show up until episode 3 and 4 for the filming of those episodes. Doesn't mean he's in those episodes, but that's when he showed up during that block. So it's quite possible, in fact, it's very likely, we're not going to see him in episode 1 or 2 because it would be very hard to film later on and interject him back in with the main characters for the first couple episodes. So he didn't mention Tom there. That would be why. All right, where does Narg think it ends? Rand wakes up, tells Tam what Moiraine said and gets advice. Lan pokes head in saying there's trouble and it's time to go. Rand and company look out to the side to see an angry crowd of men confronting Moiraine, telling her to go or they'll burn her out. That, I think, would be a very good ending point for the first episode, mainly because TV likes to end on a cliffhanger or on some kind of, fight or some big precipice of something happening. And this is an angry mob finding out that Moiraine's Aes Sedai coming to the inn, basically telling her to get out, just like it is in the books. I think this happens in chapter 9 or 10 of The Eye of the World. Don't quote me on that, though, because I don't have the book in front of me. But is that the perfect endpoint for the episode 1? I don't think so. I think the perfect endpoint for episode 1, would be the Trollocs actually attacking Emond's Field. So I think what would happen is we would get a little bit more of the story, a little bit more of everything coming in. Well, maybe we'll see the attack on Tam's farm first. We'll see the big fight with Narg, and Rand, with Tam leading them off into the woods, Tam being wounded, and Rand starting to drag him through the woods. At the same time, we'll see the Fade come down the road, and then they'll cut to a shot of Emond's Field with Trollocs boiling over the hills into Emond's Field. That's what I think. I think the perfect endpoint for the first episode would be. So I'm going to stop here at this point. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did Narg hit the nail on the head? Do you think this is what's going to happen for episode 1? Did my few thoughts and feelings change your mind in anything? And let me know what you guys think too for episode 1. And we're going to do the same thing for each of the episodes, so every one of you are going to have to make at least 8 comments on this video. At least, if you want to keep up with us. All right, let's get on to episode 2. All right, so for episode 2, Narg says the start point is probably the story of Mandarin. Now, is that correct? If you go with where I said, it would probably be the battle for Emond's Field and then everything afterwards. But I think that story is going to be really good, especially if it's shown and not just spoken by Moiraine. She's spinning her staff, the flames come out, and then she starts talking the story. And we get a cutscene back to, the story of what happened in Emond's Field thousands of years ago. So that would be really, really cool. Now, he does give us this photo here. Now, this is an official photo that Amazon released of Terran Ferry. Now, it is absolutely beautiful. The photographer really knew what they were doing when they took the shot, the fog, the sunset in the background, all of that stuff. It looks absolutely amazing. So let's see what it says here. Narg says this has to include the race to Terran Ferry, the ferry crossing, and the death of Hightower. Now, we do know from leaked metadata from these photos in Brandon Sanderson's newsletter when that came out last year. I believe it was last fall or early this year. I can't remember exactly. But the metadata basically says that Hightower dies, which is a big change from the books. He lives. So that's where that's coming from. It says it'll include Berlin without Min, White Cloak's escape from Trollocs to Shader Logoth escape and group splitting, possibly the Dark Friends social. Now, he's going to talk a little bit here, and we'll read what he says, and then I'll give my thoughts and feelings on what he's saying. So Narg is going to be contrary and say, we do get Berlin, though it seems likely that Min will not be there. Now, why does he say that? Well, Kay Alexander, the actress who's playing Min, is actually showed up for filming of Block 4, which is episodes 7 and 8, which pretty much almost negates the ability for them to do Berlin, unless, of course, they film all of Berlin during those blocks as well, and then they interject it into the story. I don't think that's likely. In fact, I am completely of the mind that Berlin will be cut, mainly because it shows such a very small portion of the story. Like, literally, you're there once in the books, pretty much, and then never back again. And building a set or doing CGI or doing any kind of construction for that to film there and never using it again would be insanely expensive for basically no reason, because you can't reuse a lot of that stuff. So that's my thoughts on that. Narg is even going to say that we could possibly meet Tom here, even though it would appear he doesn't start filming until the block for episodes 3 and 4. I just mentioned that, I think. The only reason why Narg would like this to be true is that if he doesn't appear until episode 3 and then dies in 4, the audience really going to give a damn about some dude who meets Rand and Matt either on Domain's boat or at Whitebridge, which are really the only other realistic options as far as Narg can say. Now, and at best he gets maybe 20 to 30 minutes of screen time if he's lucky. Ideally, Narg would have liked to seen him in Emond's Field, but that seems even more of a stretch than him just filming scenes at the inn in Berlin and jumping onto Domain's boat, out of block sequence due to availability. One episode extra might not seem like much, but it would definitely help in making the audience care more, in Narg's opinion. Now, Narg is basically saying that he doesn't think it's a great idea to meet Tom later on, even though I'm almost sure we will, because the audience is going to care about him. Now, that could be true. However, if they really do focus on Tom intently and how he helps the boys and maybe even get the backstory of his nephew Owen, I think the audience would really like to see Tom and really feel for him when he does, quote-unquote, die in Whitebridge. Oh, and on the topic of Domain, Narg has a theory that the reason why we haven't heard or seen a peep about him is that the Spray Voyage could have been filmed entirely on a soundstage with green screens. And as you know, we've received virtually no leaks about stuff being filmed at the studio other than the White Cloak photo and the exterior Tar Valon. We'll talk about that a little bit later. If it had been filmed on location somewhere with a real boat, Narg feels like we would have gotten a sneaky photo leaked. Narg doesn't even want to consider the alternative of no Domain. Now, why the Dark Friends social? Well, the filming at the Church of St. Wenceslas in... I'm gonna butcher this name. Visliner Zidro. At the end of October, had those 5 human-shaped alcoves, and while many believe the church was used for part of Shader Logoth, Narg can't shake the feeling that the 5 Emond's Fielders would look good on display in those alcoves. Now, I think I was one of the ones that said that that would be a great spot for Shader Logoth. Personally, Dark Friends Social, yeah, I think showing it there and showing the fact that they're after them so early in such a good setting would be a really smart idea for Amazon, because it would set up a little more urgency for all 5 of the Emond Fielders. That's personally what I think. So, endpoint. Perrin and Egwene being surrounded by wolves at the Dolsky Milne filming site. Now, we do know that the wolves were on site filming for around this episode time, so that is not a stretch at all. In fact, I think that is probably the perfect ending for episode 2. So we're going to see, probably, in my opinion, leaving Emond's Field, going to Terran Ferry, going from Terran Ferry to Shader Logoth. Immediately, I think we'll skip Berlin completely. They're going to cut that out. That's way too expensive. And then Shader Logoth, we'll have them all break up, go their separate ways like they do in the books. And then we'll focus just on Egwene and Perrin there, because they did a lot of filming with the Wolves and the White Cloaks at that point. I think that's what we'll see there. All right. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Anything you'd like to add that you'd like to see in episode 2, or things changed, or anything else. Now, I do want to stress the fact that I'm going to get a lot of comments in this video that if it's not exactly the same as the book series, I'm going to be so upset and I'll never watch the show. And that 100% can be your opinion, but I'm letting you know right now that it will not. It 100% will not be the same as the book series, because it can't be. It's almost impossible to translate this thing to screen shot for shot and make it work with the time, with the money, and with the actors involved. So I'm just letting you guys know that. So feel free to complain about it as much as you want, but there are going to be changes, and it's something that a lot of the fans are going to have to, either embrace, like myself. I'm embracing most of the changes that they're going to be doing. When I watch the series, even if it's completely different from the first book, I'll still be very excited to see it, because I consider it another turning of the wheel. So there you go. All right, let's get on to episode 3. All right, in episode 3, we get to see Tinkers, we hope. So this is one of the leaked pictures from the set that came out quite a few months ago now, and it appears, and I'm saying appears because we really don't know, because Amazon has not said anything about this at all, to show a Tinker. So this is what he put in for episode 3. So episode 3 is named A Place of Safety. Now, the start point, he said, is likely meeting Elias. Now, that is also very likely. I think that we're going to see him. I don't think that he's cut. I don't think that he's not going to show up in the first season. I think that Perrin and Egwene will meet him, and most of that will go likely the same. Now, the only sticking point here is that Aram, played by Daryl McCormick, is going to be in 3 episodes in the first season. So how are they going to fit that in? A little bit of travel, maybe a little bit of backstory for Aram, maybe a little bit more with him, with his family after Perrin and Egwene leave? I'm not sure. All right, let's get into what Narg says. So this should include travel with Elias. Rand, Matt, and Tom travel down the river. Moraine's group, which is Lan and Nynaeve, scenes, so all of those scenes with them. The first Logain and Aes Sedai scenes meeting the Tinkers. Narg knows that some believe that Elias has been cut due to the no casting announcement and him not reappearing for quite some time. But Narg really can't see him making Perrin and the Wolves work without him, at least not in the way that doesn't make Narg want to cry. Better to have him now and not reappear later, in Narg's opinion, if holding onto the actor for years down the track is an issue. Now, the end point is Perrin blushing. Now, so Elias, I think we'll see Elias. I think we may see something a little bit different with Elias, though. I think he may be an amalgamation of Elias and another character, another bigger character in the series. I couldn't tell you which one. I couldn't even begin to speculate. I don't know. Mainly because Elias was such a big part of the book series for the few times he was there. But he was there just a few times. And when Narg mentioned the fact that it might be hard to hold on to an actor for later on, he's 100% true. To have an actor sign a contract to say, I'm going to show up for 5 or 10 minutes of an episode, maybe a couple of days of shooting, and then 6 years later, you need me for the same amount, it's difficult at best to get somebody to commit to that time frame. I mean, Marvel does it, but other than Marvel, I can't think of anyone else who's really been able to do that well. And all the things he said, where they're going to travel with the Tinkers, where we're going to see all the scenes with Lan, Moraine, and Nynaeve, I think all that is 100% correct. I think we're going to see all of those things. And I think that the title of Place of Safety refers to the setting where Perrin and Egwene are going to basically camp out, and it'll be the big wolf fight at the end. Now, end point here is Perrin blushing. I don't think so. I think we're going to see maybe a little bit more with the Tinkers. So I think we may see Perrin blushing in the next episode, and then Elias and them leaving in the next episode and going to the steading. So I misspoke there when I said that I think it's going to have this episode. It won't. It can't. Not with Aram in 3 episodes. So, all right. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Episode 3, what do you think will happen? Is Narg's speculation spot on? My little aside, spot on or not? Is he crazy? Am I crazy? Are we both crazy? Let us know. All right. Let's get on to episode 4. All right, so episode 4, what does Narg give us? Well, he gives us a picture of a couple of the wolves. This is Tinky and Fufinka. Pretty cool names for the wolves. They were filming around this time for this episode, and this episode is conveniently named The Dragon Reborn. Now, we'll talk about that in a second. So Narg says, the start point should be traveling with the Tinkers and hearing the Aiel story, which will be visualized. I think that's fairly spot on. I think we're going to see the starting of traveling with the Tinkers. We're going to see Aram. We're going to meet Rayan and Ila. I think we're going to see Elias and Perrin and Egwene traveling with them. And I think at this point we'll see Perrin start to blush in this episode, not in the last one. He says this episode should include Rand and Matt playing for their supper on the road, the Grinwell farm, Moraine's group arriving at Whitebridge, more Logain, Aes Sedai build-up, Perrin has a dream with a wolf, and Bal-Azamon. And the end point will be the battle, Logain's capture. Now, the including stuff, I pretty much agree with all of that. I think that they're going to include most of that stuff there. The ending point with the battle with Logain's capture, I think that is an excellent point to end this particular one, especially since they're calling it The Dragon Reborn. Now, initially, way back when these titles first got leaked, there was a lot of speculation that The Dragon Reborn was basically, it's episode 4. We're ending at the Eye of the World there, and it's where Rand finds out that he's the Dragon Reborn, and then they start into the Great Hunt. 2 books, 1 season. And I'm loath to admit, but I will admit it. I was 100% wrong when I admitted this stuff, or talked about this stuff before, as I was in that camp. I was hardcore 2 books, 1 season, and I have flipped a complete 180. I'm pretty sure it's 1 book with a few expanded storylines, 1 season. But that's just me. Ending with the battle and Logain's capture, sure. I can see that. It's a very big culmination, a very big dramatic scene, having him knocked off his horse, or having the Aes Sedai surround him, or the warders surround him and put him at sword point while he's shielded. I think that would be a very, very dramatic way to end this episode. Alright, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Episode 4 of The Dragon Reborn, is Narg spot on? Am I spot on? Is it something different? Do you guys think something different is going to happen? Alright, let me know. Alright, let's get on to episode 5. Alright, so for episode 5, Narc says he thinks it starts with Perrin, Egwene, and Elias leaving the Tinkers. Now, we all know what happens when they leave the Tinkers. And we see these fine folks here, the White Cloaks, or as Narg calls them, the Narg Cloaks, because he photoshopped his face on them. So, he says it should include Perrin and company fleeing the Ravens, White Cloaks at the steading, 4 Kings, White Cloak interrogation, Rand and Mat reaching Caemlyn, meeting Gil and Loyal, and then heading on to Tar Valon, that's another big change, with Loyal tagging along with them, or alternatively, they bypass Caemlyn completely and Gil and Loyal are in Tar Valon. Endpoint is Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve rescue Perrin and Egwene. Now, do I agree with some of this stuff? Yes. Do I disagree with some of it? 100%. Now, let's talk about the stuff I agree with and the stuff I disagree with. So, agree with Perrin and Egwene and Elias leave the Tinkers? Sure. That's a good start point for this one. I think that we're going to see them fleeing the Ravens. I think that we're going to see the White Cloak camp. A lot of these set pictures that get leaked during that time sort of reinforce that. I think that we're going to see the 4 Kings happen. Again, the leaked set picture of Rand and Mat that happened a while ago, I still believe was from 4 Kings. So I think we'll see that in this episode. Then we'll see Rand and Mat reaching Caemlyn, meeting Gil and Loyal, and then heading on to Tar Valon. This is a sticky point for me, because if they go to Caemlyn first and then they head to Tar Valon, it really doesn't make any sense, because the only reason they were going to Caemlyn completely was because Tom told them that his friend the innkeeper was there and they would be safe. I can't see them going there, seeing Basil Gill, seeing Loyal, and then heading out to Tar Valon on their own. Alternatively, they bypass Caemlyn completely and Gil and Loyal are in Tar Valon. That's his second thought there. I agree with this one. So I think Caemlyn's cut, personally, mainly just because we have heard nothing about Caemlyn. We've heard nothing about the Tracans. We've heard little to nothing about anything there at all. And it is another major city in the first season that really we only see for a few minutes and then never see again for quite some seasons. I think we're talking a couple seasons down the road before we see Caemlyn a second time. So it'd be very expensive for them to build, very expensive for them to set up, do the CG for, and then not use it again for a few seasons. You got to understand that they're probably going to change some things, and money is going to be a factor in this. They are spending upwards of $15 million an episode. Don't get me wrong, but actors' fees, like CGI, set fees, all that stuff, that adds up really quick. $15 million sounds like a lot, and I know that's what Game of Thrones got for their finale season, but it's still this is a big fantasy epic. So if they're going to cut corners, they're probably going to cut corners that are going to save them money. So I think we're not going to see Caemlyn. I've been saying that for some months now, that I think that Caemlyn is probably not there, which kind of breaks my heart, because I really, really want to see the Tracans. I love Elaine. I love Glad. I certainly love Gowan. He's my second favorite character in the series, but I don't think we'll see them. So then, endpoint: Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve rescue Perrin and Egwene. I think that's a very, very good ending point, because if that happens, it's very dramatic. They sneak into the White Cloak camp, they bust them out. That would be really, really cool to see. Maybe not the full-on rescue. Maybe they don't get them out and they get back to camp and they're all tired and whatnot, and they run from the White Cloaks. I think maybe it's when Lan comes in and rescues Perrin and Egwene. He walks into the tent. I think it'll cut right there before the battle with the White Cloaks. That's my opinion. So let me go and what you guys think. Are we going to see Caemlyn or not? I, for one, would love to see Caemlyn. I really hope they do include it. However, because we have seen nothing about it and we've seen no castings for the Trick Cans, it does give me a little bit of pause. Although, we have seen the casting for Basil Gill. So that is something that may hint at a Caemlyn at some point. I don't know. I really don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Will we see it? Will we not see it? And is Narg a little off base or am I? All right, let's get on to the next episode. All right, episode 6, The Flame of Tar-Valon. This, again, was leaked quite some time ago, the name of the script, and a lot of people thought that it would be in Faldera when they met with the Amyrlin Seat before they carried on after the theft of the Horn. So that's if the Great Hunt was also in the first season. I don't think that's happening anymore. So Narg gets in a little bit here, and I think he gets some of it right. So let's go on and see what he says. Start point. Logain being escorted to Tar-Valon. Somehow Moiraine's group links up with them as per the leaked callback scripts. Now, for those of you who don't know, there were a number of videos up recently that did get taken down of actors and actresses basically recording callbacks. So they auditioned for a part, they were given pieces of the script, and they did a callback. Now, take this with a big grain of salt because callback scripts can be one of any number of things. They can be the actual script itself. That could go through a number of revisions afterwards. It could be something completely made up that gives the style and the flair and the flavor of the characters, so the casting agency gets a look at them doing the character without actually giving anything away. Or it could be the basically final version of the script that they're reading as well. It could be any of those things or anything in between. So the leaked callback scripts seem to hint that Moiraine traveled with a bunch of Aes Sedai and warders with Logain to Tar-Valon in the first season. Now, we don't know that for 100% sure, but the callbacks all hinted at that. Now, whether they're right or wrong, we don't know. So, what should it include? Narg says Logain entering Tar-Valon and being presented to the Amyrlin Seat, Moiraine's group meeting back up with Rand and Mat and discovering they need to go to the Eye, and the gentling of Logain. Now, the problem here is that if Mat has the dagger, surely they'd stick around to have him healed first or leave him behind. But if they did that, they would screw with the plot for the Great Hunt in a very bad way, in Narg's opinion. And we know that Mat is in at least episode 7, so it seems likely he leaves with them. So let's just imagine that Moiraine feels the need to get to the Eye quickly and either doesn't feel it's safe for Mat to remain behind without her, or if she is not sure if he's needed at the Eye at all. Either way, Tar-Valon plays out basically like Caemlyn, but without the royals. Endpoint. Entering the ways headed for Faldera. So, starting point, Logain being escorted to Tar-Valon, Moiraine's group linked up with them, they talk a bit, entering Tar-Valon. I think that's, if the callback scripts are to be believed, likely. If not, we're completely off in left field. I don't know. I really have no idea. Although I think it might make a lot of sense, especially if they end up cutting Caemlyn and, the boys travel straight to Tar-Valon instead. I have no idea if that's true or not, but hopefully it all makes sense. So, the including part, Logain entering Tar-Valon and being presented at the Amyrlin Seat, that, I believe, will 100% be included. I think we're going to see Tar-Valon in the first season, mainly because we've had confirmation from a few people that they've been on set in Tar-Valon. We've had the exterior of Tar-Valon stuff that came out months and months and months ago. We know Tar-Valon's in the first season. I don't know how. We don't know if it's the foretelling, if we don't know if it's the blood snow or anything else like that, but we do know we're seeing Tar-Valon. This makes a lot of sense. I think it gives a lot of opportunity for the viewers, especially those who haven't read the books, to see the seat of power of the Aes Sedai, to cement it in their minds, to see how some of the politics work there, and to see the gentling of a false dragon. That would be absolutely epic to see on screen, and I think it's something that we need to see. Not just, it would be nice. We need to see that in the first season to make people feel for whoever the Dragon Reborn happens to be, make them scared for him. That would be a really, really smart way for Amazon to play this. All right. I'm reading here. So next part is Mat and the dagger. So if Mat and Rand bypass Caemlyn and they end up in Tar-Valon, so if that happens and Mat has the dagger, Narg's thoughts on that do make a lot of sense, but here's a third thought that he never put out there. Moiraine doesn't know. She doesn't feel the taint. Mat's not acting erratically enough yet. Nobody has said anything about it. He hasn't revealed it. Maybe, he wasn't sick in the inn and Moiraine didn't come in and see him. All that stuff, maybe all that doesn't happen until later on, after they leave Tar-Valon and go to Faldera. That is a smart thing, I think. Now, the next part here, endpoint entering the ways headed for Faldera. Now, we do know that the Waygate leaked photos show a Waygate out in the middle of a field. There were no other green screens or anything behind it other than the center of the Waygate. And this is what Narg put up here for the Waygate picture. It's pretty funny. I like it. But that is the photo of the Waygate out in the field. Now, in between the two pillars there is a green screen, so they can add whatever they like in there from the set photos. But this is out in the middle of a field. It's out in the middle of nowhere. So we know the Waygate in Camelin is in the basement of an inn or a shop. I can't exactly remember which one it was, but it was in the basement of a building at the very least. And it was big enough for them to take their horses down inside and crawl through and go through the Waygate. Having it out in the field makes a little more sense. This could be in the field outside Camelin, or it could be in the field outside Tar-Valon. Either way, we know that it's not directly in the city proper. So with the episode ending, going to Faldera through the ways, yeah, I think it's just them entering the Waygate. And in fact, I think that leaked audio that came out recently was Egwene and Perrin walking into the Waygate. Outside Tar-Valon, perhaps, or maybe outside Camelin, I don't know. But I think that's what that audio was. Not my guess, I gave to Ray for the time, but that's my guess now. All right, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is Camelin on the docket? Is all of this stuff happening in Camelin? Is Tar-Valon on the docket? Is all this stuff happening in Tar-Valon? Is the Waygate outside Camelin? Is it outside Tar-Valon? Is it ending with them going into the ways, going to Faldera? All right, let's get on to the next episode. All right, episode 7 now. This is where we're getting into some, we'll say, sketchy territory, where we don't know as much information as we would really like about the show. There's not as many leaks. There's not as much stuff going on that we would know about. And in fact, we don't know even any of the castings other than Kay Alexander's Min, who filmed in this block of episodes, really. None of the big ones anyway. So, what Narg says, the start point, the ways. I think so. I think that just like the last one, it's them going through the ways. This must include, Narg says, traveling the ways and the escape, the arrival at Faldera, Swan, Sanche, flashbacks to her childhood in Tyr. How that fits in, Narg has no idea. Introductions to Egilmar, Rand meets Min, Perrin does some shopping, Matt takes a bath, stuff. End point. Leaving for the eye and the gap. All right, so Narg has a couple of pictures here. I'm going to show you them. This one here, I'm going to move my ugly mug out of the way so you guys can take a look at it. This is speculated to be the main gates of Faldera. This is a leaked set picture, and it looks like those standards out there were possibly the standards for Shannara, possibly Egilmar's standards himself. We're not entirely sure because it is a kind of a grainier picture, although later on we did see other set pictures that showed slightly different banners that were Egilmar's banners, and the Swooping Hawk is, of course, the standard of Shannara. So this is pretty much probably the front gates of Faldera. So, he also gave us a couple of other things here. Let's bring myself back here. And Narg gave us this. It looks to me like a fishing hut. Now, when he says that we meet Swan Sanche, the Amerlin, 100%. I think we meet Swan here. And yes, I mispronounce a lot of the names, and I'm going to hear this in the comments down below. Oh, you mispronounce Domain's name wrong. It's this, or you mispronounce... I can't help it. In my head, I know what they're called, but I call them the wrong things all the time. But Swan is not mispronounced. I've seen people say that all the time to me. You're mispronouncing her name. It's Suin, or what? It's Swan. It's pronounced Swan, whether you like it or not. That's that's how it is. That's the only pronunciation that I'll defend myself on because I know it's correct. The rest of them, I'm all over the place most of the time. All right, so this here is a fishing hut. It looks like because you see some fishing gear out front. You see some other things, but you also see this picture that Narg posted that did not make the rounds earlier, and it was the same hut burned to the ground. So, are we going to see some of Swan Sanche's backstory? Well, we do know that a young Swan was cast. Amazon has not really officially announced any of the younger cast members yet, but this was broke by Redanian Intelligence quite some time ago, and also her casting agency kind of flubbed up a little bit. Her talent agency, or I should say not the casting agency, her talent agency, did flub up a little bit and said that she was filming our first day on set, and it was, they mentioned the wheel time a couple times, so we know that she's in the wheel time, and we know that she's playing a young Swan. So we're going to see some flashbacks to Swan's childhood, which I think is absolutely amazing. I want to see her come from nothing. I want to see her rise to power. I'd like to see a whole series based around Swan because she is such an amazing character, and Fish Guts we don't get to see enough of her. We really don't, but that's my thoughts on that. All right, so the ending point, leaving for the eye and the gap, yeah, 100%. I do 100% agree that they're going to leave for the eye and the gap, and that's what's going to happen here, and that's where they're going to end. They're going to basically leave Faldera. You're going to see an army go to Tarwin's Gap, and you're going to see the Emond's Fielders with Intgar and the rest of the party go towards the Eye of the World in the Blight. All right. So let me know what you guys think. Are we seeing this? Is this Faldera? Is this young Swan? Is this her house?
Did she get attacked? Did she use the one power and perhaps burn it down by accident? We don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. How do you think this episode will play out? What do you think we'll see? Do you want to see more of Miss Fishguts herself, Swan, or are you quite happy with her being a tertiary character until later on in the book series? All right, let's get on to the 8th and the final episode. All right, so Narg has us starting for the 8th and final episode at the Travel to the Blight. I think that's completely spot on. Now, recently in my last video, I put up some pictures of what appears to be roots and some staircases and columns and stuff near them. I 100% believe that is probably the entrance to the Eye of the World. It just looks too good not to be. So I think we're going to see that in episode 8. Now, something I do want to mention that episodes 7 and 8 don't have titles. We have not seen them yet. I mean, they have titles, but we don't know what they are because it hasn't been leaked and no one's told us yet. So it's harder to glean what they could be from this, and I think there's a reason for that. I think that we're going to see them called things that will give away major points of the story, at least currently to us right now. So, this should include the Malkir Lake scene, the race to the Eye, meeting the Green Man, the fight with Agenor and Bethamel, Tarwin's Gap. Now, he gave us this picture here, and with the quote, bit of VFX, and you won't even recognize this. I think this is a picture from the Battle of Tarwin's Gap. I think they're going to CGI in hundreds, if not thousands, more troops, and a lot of shadow spawn and different things. I think it will be an absolutely epic, amazing battle to end, basically the first season. That's my thoughts. All right, so then Rand's confrontation with Balaizamon, maybe going into the Eye and recovering the items. The banner revealed to Rand, Loyal's parting gift to the Green Man, arrival back at Faldera and celebrations. Moraine eavesdropping on Rand and Egwene, the prophecies will be fulfilled, the dragon is reborn. Narg reckons this fits the eavesdropping scene. And we got a lot of set pictures recently of Yosha and Maddie on set and doing different things, and the only thing I can think of is them talking and Moraine listening in. That really does make a whole lot of sense. Or this also, in my opinion, could be the night before they go into the Blight and the Eye of the World, and they're talking about that too. I'm not quite sure how that fits in, but one of the two seems very likely. Camera then pans out and flies up over to Falm. Endpoint. The Shan-Chan fleet arriving at Falm, locals forced to kneel and take the oath of return, obey, await, and serve. They need some kind of hook and setup for season 2. So then Narg talks about us taking a break and stuff at that point. So we won't get into that part of it because we're just talking about the speculation of the episodes. But including Green Man in the Eye, Tarwin's Gap, and all that stuff, yes, 100%. Do I think he's going to fight Balaizamon again? No, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see him fight him 3 or 4 times like he does in the books and defeat him every time and he keeps coming back. That's kind of a little too campy for a serious show. It works in the books. It works quite well in the books because he's like an immortal being coming back and whatnot. But in the show, I think it would be better served for Rand to fight different things. And I think that Rand teleporting over to Tarwin's Gap and helping out in the battle there, and basically going Super Saiyan, for lack of a better term, and destroying a whole bunch of shadow spawn would be an absolutely amazing shot instead of him fighting, the Dark One again. But we'll see. We're not entirely sure what's happening there because, as we know right now, they haven't even really finished filming episodes 7 and 8, and they're on a break until April. Unofficially. I mean, we haven't had official word from Amazon that that's the case. However, that's what all of my sources, and WheelTimeSeries.com sources, and other people's sources happen to be saying, including the extra agency and the casting agency have all said that they're on a break till April, and they're not done filming yet, so yeah, I don't know what we're going to see. Now, the end point with the Shan-Chan, I can never say their name properly. It is Shan-Chan, showing up and making people at Falme, or Falm, however you want to pronounce it, give the oaths of the return, obey, wait, and serve. Yes, 100%. That should be the very final shot, with them showing up and in their insectile armor and putting their boot on someone's head and just like making them give the oaths and having everyone in the whole city kneel to them. That would be absolutely epic. The best way to end the first season because it sets them up as the big bads for season 2, which they kind of are, which is really, really neat. All right. So, what do you guys think? Is Narg on point with all 8 episodes here? Did he have complete insider information and he just basically wrote the scripts out to us? I don't think he did. But is he going to be right for a few of these points? 100%. I think some of his stuff is absolutely spot on correct. I don't agree with some others of his things, but I do know that there will be major changes from the book series to the show just because they have to do it. So there is that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are the changes necessary? Are they going to happen even? We're not even sure. Is Narg correct? Am I correct? Are we both completely off our rockers here and not know anything at all? I don't know. All right, let me know what you think. I want to thank you all so much for sticking with me here to the very end. This was a pretty long video, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. I tend to put out 1 to 2 videos a week focused on Wheel of Time and Prime stuff, mainly news and speculation, although I do Wheel of Time videos as well. I'm a big fan of the series. I really do love it. And if you haven't already liked the video, if you like what I'm doing here, like it, leave a comment. The YouTube metrics really like that stuff for some reason. And here's to many more.